Sports Radio.
Here comes the siren. I want to go higher. Oh, my goodness. Posey will defend. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
Oh, baby, for sure.
Cap Sports Radio starts now.
Well, what are we going to talk about today?
Should be pretty obvious, I think. This story.
It's just nothing's coming to mind.
This show is going to write itself, buddy.
Yeah, you can expect to hear some Raptors chat tonight.
Yeah.
Game 5 happening about an hour from now. We are going to get you prepared for that in Toronto. Oh, baby.
The CSR Podcast.
Cabin Sports Radio brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. Check out sportnorth.com. A little bit later on today's episode, we will hear from India Edwards, her coach Jeff Hipfner, and Spider Jones, president of Squash NT, as India gets set to head down to Toronto for the Slate Music International Junior Squash Showcase, kicking off exactly 1 week from now, June 17th. So very exciting stuff from her. So we will talk to them towards the end of the show. Lots to talk about before then, despite my my best attempts at humor. There is some very obvious show material for today. Game 5, Raptors, Golden State Warriors in Toronto. Are we going to see the biggest city in Canada burn to the ground in celebration tonight?
My goodness. So the latest reports now, Kevin Durant of the Golden State Warriors will play tonight.
Yes.
Kind of got the feeling towards the start of the day that would be the case. He was officially listed as questionable.
Yeah.
It's been a weird week, and that's sort of that storyline has sort of dominated this series, other than the fact that the Raptors are very good. And we'll get to that in a bit, but obviously, you know, he's the greatest scorer in the game right now, certainly the greatest offensive threat all around, and for him to not be in the lineup right now is an obvious hole for the Golden State Warriors. But we found out officially this afternoon he will be playing, which is obviously going to bolster their chances.
And he kind of figured that had to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's do or die.
It is do or die. Yeah, like save from literally not being able to walk, there's really no reason why you shouldn't be part of it. I mean, obviously there's a case to be made that if he's in a physical condition where a different player would be a better choice to play in that position, yeah, you got to make that call. But you know, with Kevin Durant, right from game 1 of this series, his status has been kind of questionable.
Yeah.
It hasn't been, oh, no, he's out for, 2 weeks without question. It's been kind of questionable from the start. Game 1, game 2, it was, he's not going to play game 1, game 2.
Yeah.
After that, it was kind of anyone's guess. If you don't play now and you lose and you feel like you could have made a difference, that's something you regret for the entire offseason.
Right. And muscle injuries are different, and Steve Kerr sort of spoke to it, head coach of the Warriors, spoke to it a little bit during media availability today. Muscle injuries are certainly different than joint or bone injuries. They're a little bit less predictable.
Yeah.
Just in the sense that, so when he did initially go down with the injury, I want to say it was the first week of May, he's been out of action. He hasn't played a game in almost 5 weeks now. And that would have been in game 5 against the Houston Rockets, and then Golden State went on to win that series in 6. But just even the way he sustained it was a non-contact play, very similar, and that's why people were sort of drawing the comparisons to Kobe's injury when he tore his Achilles. And obviously, if we're talking about an Achilles injury, that's much more significant.
Yeah, not much you can do about that.
No, especially for a basketball player. Your sideline, we saw even his teammate DeMarcus Cousins go down with that a couple of years ago. You're sidelined for a year.
Right.
They're obviously very serious in nature. And I don't know, I caught myself getting a little wound up in all the conspiracy theories that were
Mike Gibbons
that were floating around this past week about the honesty of the injury. And I mean, it's personal, right? And this is a very sensitive time. And he's obviously going to be under an immense amount of scrutiny, just being that it is the NBA Finals right now. And there are lots of reports that came out this week about the confusion and the angst, anxiety that this injury was playing in the Golden State Warriors locker room, because guys are wondering if he's going to suit up for the next game. It was the big question mark of this series. But an injury like this is pretty unpredictable. It can come with a timeline of 2 to 3 weeks for recovery. It could be 4 to 6 weeks, and this is going to be closer to the 5-week range. But then you'd see the pictures after practices, and he's wearing ice packs more towards his ankle than his calf, and then it's like, well, that maybe it is an Achilles injury. But I mean, obviously, if it was, he wouldn't be playing. So it sounded like a pretty severe calf strain. But now he's good to go, and they're certainly going to need him. He'll inject a lot of offense, a lot of firepower into their lineup. I think what we'll probably see, and apparently has no minutes restriction. So Steve Kerr, rightfully so, it's a do or die situation, is going to ride him as much as he possibly can. You just have to wonder what the conditioning is going to be like. That's 5 weeks, and in that time, he's got one practice under his belt, and it came today. I think he was on the court yesterday to join his teammates, but didn't get a full run-in, and you could see him again leaving the court with ice around his leg. So I think conditioning for me would be one thing to look, and if you're the Toronto Raptors, I figure Kawhi will probably get the matchup, checking him on the defensive end anyways. But if you find yourself, I don't know, in a switch scenario, or if you're being checked by Durant, I think you got to attack it immediately, right off the gate, and test that leg. Not, we're not egregious, not trying to injure him further.
You're not going Bobby Clark on him or anything.
But you're gonna test that leg as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely, and I mean, this is the kind of thing too that there is definitely an intangible aspect to it. A guy like Kevin Durant just being in the lineup, regardless of whether or not you think that he is, regardless of whether or not he is 100%, just the headspace that puts a team into. It's like, we've got this guy on our corner, on the court with us. That makes a huge difference in morale. So that's a boost, regardless of whether or not Kevin Durant is 100%. It's a boost for the rest of the team. Plus the fact that you obviously have to factor him into your defensive schemes. Like you say, if Kawhi gets the matchup guarding him, you got to think that the presence of Kevin Durant immediately opens things up for Steph Curry and all of the other players, really, to provide a little more offense. Nate Thompson, that they suddenly don't, or sorry, Klay Thompson, they suddenly, you can't key on them as much when you've got someone like Kevin Durant who's sitting there. It's like, well, we have to worry about this guy regardless. Again, if he's at 75%, 80%, 90%, he can factor in if you don't key on him as well.
And I think I would hone in on that almost more than scoring. I'm not really, after 5 weeks off, I'm not really expecting him to go out there and drop 40 tonight. I don't think that's entirely fair. He's Kevin Durant. He probably could. And that's what Steve Kerr said too. Obviously, undeniably, the talent is there. And it's always going to be there. You don't just lose that. It's like riding a bike. You don't lose it. Yeah. But the conditioning, for me, I think would be a real concern. He has not played a game, and certainly a game as intense as a potential clinching game in the NBA Finals in weeks now, going back 5 weeks. So the conditioning element, I think, is something to look out for, but I think you hit it right on the head. That's what I would look for more, is how he's going to free up other guys on the court. Because outside of Steph and Klay, they have not had enough help. They've got some production here and there from Draymond. He's averaging close to a triple-double, to be fair, which is excellent over the course of the series. Yeah. But in terms of a scoring standpoint, and they obviously missed Klay tremendously in Game 3, but outside of the two of them, their bench has been really unpredictable. Iguodala he's also playing through an injury, I think also a calf injury. We know that Thompson had the hamstring issue. Curry was fighting some undisclosed illness earlier in the series, but it's their other guys that they're not getting production from.
Yeah.
There have been stretches where Quinn Cook has looked pretty good. Looney, obviously, he might get some minutes. He was also ruled out initially, but now is back in the rotation. DeMarcus Cousins hasn't looked that great. Sean Livingston is probably someone I would look at to have a better game tonight if he's sharing the court with Durant, because, like you said, his presence will open up avenues for other guys, and that's just been the issue. They have not been shooting the ball all that well outside of Steph and Clay, who have seen their percentages dip, certainly, but still, I think Steph's putting up over 30 a game. Clay's shooting with a much higher percentage and still getting good looks, but having the presence of an all-time great scorer like Kevin Durant, who was leading the postseason in terms of points per game before he went down with an injury, it's just going to make the game so much easier for everyone else on the court because you have to give him that extra attention. Now, if you put your primary defender in Kawhi on him, which I'm sure the Raptors will do, that will help them out because he's probably the best defender in the league.
Yeah.
Draymond Green probably thinks otherwise. He's the best defender of all time.
And especially if he's not 100%, then you can feel pretty confident that Kawhi Leonard is going to more than get the job done one-on-one.
Yeah, you would certainly think. And then, you've got Pascal who might check Draymond Green, for instance. Danny Green might start off with Klay Thompson. There's so much switching in basketball now that it doesn't really matter who your primary guard is. It's probably going to swap out anyways, but it'll certainly help, but they're still also going to need that secondary scoring. They're going to need, if the series is to be extended, they're going to need guys like DeMarcus Cousins to play a bit better.
Right.
Him and Marc Gasol have gone back and forth, and the game that they won, he outplayed Marc Gasol, and in the other contests that hasn't been the case. Sean Livingston, I haven't seen much from him. Like I said, Quinn Cook for stretches got hot. But outside of that, they're not getting a great deal of production from their second-tier guys. But getting someone like Durant back in the mix will certainly open up avenues. I think Toronto has to capitalize tonight, though.
Yeah.
Just because, the last game was on Friday, so we've got 2 full days, which is great for the Warriors, a team that's pretty wounded right now, to recover. And, of course, in similar fashion, Game 6, if it were to happen, another 2-day rest, and then we would pick up again on Thursday. You don't want Durant to get into a rhythm.
Right.
So I think the longer this series goes, the more it's going to benefit a championship team.
It has to.
Like the Warriors, a playoff battle-tested team. And then the worst-case scenario is if you get someone who has all the talent in the world but might be lacking the conditioning right now. If you even if they extend it to 7 games, you're giving him an extra week to practice with his teammates and get
back into game
and get
shape.
runs in. In 2 more games, 3, if they were to go to the distance.
Yeah. The last thing I think you want to do is give Golden State life and give them hope.
Yes.
Right? Like that is a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
And like you say, it gives a little more time for someone like Kevin Durant to, a few extra days to recover, and then Game 7, a few more extra days if they happen to lose Game 6 as well. Like that's just not something you even want to think about. You don't want to entertain that idea of it. You got to have all your chips in for this game. But kind of on the flip side of what you were saying about Golden State and their secondary guys not picking up the slack. That has been something that's been a really interesting developing storyline over the course of this entire playoff run for the Raptors, is that 2 series ago against the 76ers, that was one thing we were really focusing on, was that the burden was too heavy on Kawhi. He was getting it done, but
not
they
sustainable.
At an unsustainable rate. They needed those secondary guys. They needed Danny Green to step up. They needed Fred VanVleet to step up. Serge Ibaka. They needed these guys to start making a little bit more of a contribution. And man, are they ever stepping up at the right time?
Yeah. Even when DeMar DeRozan was on the Raptors, he was the best player. He was the best scorer. We always knew that Kyle Lowry was the engine. He's the heart and soul of this team. And even with a bona fide superstar, probably the best 2-way player in the game in Kawhi Leonard, it's still Kyle Lowry that's leading the charge in the sense that he's the team captain, draws more charges than anyone in the league,
Right.
Makes the right play at the right time, and has really accepted his role playing alongside Kawhi Leonard really, really well. But like you said, it's the secondary scoring that's really benefited them in this series specifically. We're all waiting on Danny Green to reemerge.
Right.
He's won an NBA Finals. He's had that championship experience, but he wasn't shooting well throughout most of the playoffs. He was in a bit of a funk.
Right.
I think I saw some stat on Twitter this week about the number of people who have shot. I believe the threshold is 50 3-point field goals in an NBA Finals, and he has the highest percentage. So he comes to play when it matters most. He's an excellent 3-point shooter, and he figured it was just a matter of time before he got out of that funk. I think he had 8 the other night. Maybe that was game 3. Certainly at least 6. And Fred VanVleet, who we saw go down with that pretty scary facial injury.
God.
Lost a tooth, had 7 stitches, came back. And what Nick Nurse has done, and honestly, to this point, has outcoached Steve Kerr, which is a pretty tremendous accomplishment for someone in their rookie season behind the bench, let alone to go to the NBA Finals, but then to push a 2-time champion, 3 of the last 4, to the brink and potentially clinch tonight. It speaks volumes about how he's been able to command his club. But one interesting adjustment he's done is had Fred VanVleet start the second half, so he gets 2 point guards alongside each other with him and Lowry, substituting Danny Green, and that's worked well for them. That's something I would hone in on tonight too, is the third quarter. Golden State loves to put teams away in the third quarter. We saw that crazy 18-0 run they went on in Game 2 that effectively put the game out of reach for the Raptors. That was it.
Yeah.
So I would look at that, and that's an adjustment Nick Nurse has made, and it's paid dividends immediately.
I couldn't help but think as watching Game 4 and that nasty elbow that caught Fred VanVleet, cut him on the cheek. Yeah. Was it just under the eye?
Just under the eye. Yeah.
Somehow he lost a tooth out of that as well. They had a great shot, a close-up of the tooth just lying there on the court. He gets up, goes to the back, gets stitches, comes back into the game, and I was like, man, if there was ever a way you would, like, as if this team hasn't endeared itself to hockey mania.
I know
already. If there was ever a way you wanted to further endear yourself to the hockey fandom that has suddenly turned to basketball, that was it. Man, Fred VanVleet, he's earned himself a place in the hearts of Toronto sports fans if he hadn't already. After that was amazing.
You'll always get the stigma that basketball players are soft, right?
Yes.
So that was a nice moment. But Ibaka, Gasol, Siakam, you're getting production across the board, and that has been the difference.
Absolutely,
and will be a difference if this is extended as well. If the Warriors don't get that same level of production, they're very top heavy.
Yeah.
They're extremely talented, and we know that. One last thing I'd like to say, a little bit of a rant here.
All right.
The whole notion of the asterisks, which quite frankly bothers me.
Is this about Golden State being injured?
Yeah, okay. that there would be an asterisk beside a title if the Raptors were to clinch, and I think it is complete and total garbage.
Ignore.
Yeah. If I were to get you to name, I don't even think I would have been able to. And I remember watching this NBA Finals. If you were to name the 5 starters of the Cleveland Cavaliers team that the first Golden State Warriors team beat in the 2015 Finals, I bet you couldn't name 2. One of them's LeBron James.
I wouldn't
and
go.
Kyrie was injured, and so was Kevin Love.
Oh, okay, then I'm out.
Yeah. Timothy Mozgov.
Okay.
Tristan Thompson.
Oh, I might have got that one.
Amon Shumpert. And Matthew Dellavedova.
Oh, yeah.
That is the team that the Golden State Warriors, the best team in league history, beat to win their first title. And then
does anyone talk about an asterisk?
No.
That one? No.
And then they blow a 3-1 lead to LeBron James when they're healthy.
Yeah.
Which probably would have been the same result the year prior. That's after going 73-9, and then they add the best scorer in the game to a team that was 73-9. And win the next 2 against teams that were injured themselves. Chris Paul went down in the conference finals last year.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard went down when they faced them in the 2017, I believe it was a conference semifinals. So there's no such thing as an asterisk. That's why trophies are so hard to win, because there is a luck factor.
Yep.
And you got to have your guys staying healthy. The Toronto Raptors have to play whoever's in front of them, and they can't control unless it's a blatant, boneheaded, injury-causing play.
Yeah.
They can't control who's in front of them, and they have to play. So I just wanted to say that the asterisks, there is no asterisks. They still have a 2-time MVP in Steph Curry. They still have arguably the best spot-up shooter plus 3D man in Klay Thompson. They have a finals MVP in Andre Iguodala. They have an all-star in DeMarcus Cousins, and they have a former defensive player of the year in Draymond Green. And they have guys who have won championships. So that's that.
Get that asterisk out of here.
That felt good.
Well said, Mr. Gimmons. Well said. All right. With apologies to my dad, who I think may be listening right now, I don't know that we're going to get a CFL season preview in here. Oof, he's not going to like that.
Oh.
He's switching the station right now.
Uh-oh.
You're listening to Cabin Sports Radio, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward.
Cabin Sports Radio brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. We will get back to more Raptors chat because the Wheel has just joined us, and he is livid that we are about to talk Women's World Cup of Soccer. Probably not framed in the best light there. Well, do you want to come on and talk some Women's World Cup?
That's terrible.
There you go.
That is not what I was saying.
That is not the angle I wanted to go with.
The joke I made, I made it sound like I was mad that you were going to talk about Women's World Cup. I was like, Women's World Cup with incredulity. But then I was like, only half the planet cares about that.
I also don't know what that word means.
Well, like, I don't believe you.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like,
incredulity. Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, no, it's not like I don't believe you. Oh, no, I messed it up.
That's okay.
Pardon me.
All right. Anyway, Women's World Cup of Soccer. Why do we invite you again? Women's World Cup of Soccer. Canada opened their first game of the tournament. 1-0 victory over Cameroon this afternoon. Kadisha Buchanan scoring off a corner kick in the 45th minute to seal the deal for Canada. Mm-hmm. 5th ranked in the world.
Yeah. Cameroon?
No, Canada.
Oh, yeah, I knew that.
I think Cameroon's like 40. Yeah.
46.
Oh, so not
something.
a victory really at all.
It's, well, I mean, it's interesting. I was reading a bit of a recap of the game. Sarah Wicks, intern Sarah, was watching the game live because, of course, she's a
Div 1 soccer player.
Yeah, big-time soccer fan. She was actually pointing out girls on the screen, being like, oh, I played with her. Oh, I know her.
Was she like, I don't like her? I don't like her. She's got a bad attitude?
Maybe to one or two. But for the most part, she was like, all these girls are lovely. And apparently, if she actually has a good season this year, there's a very good chance that she may get an invite to Canada's national camp next year.
We bring in the finest, only the finest interns.
You know, we don't want to get into name dropping, but we knew Sarah Wicks before the world knew about her.
That's right.
So,
well, I mean, she's been on ESPN, so
pretty cool.
Yeah, but 13.
Not okay. ESPN 13. I don't even know what you'd call that. The unlucky ESPN. Did you, not to bring up the Raptors again, but obviously the Canadian Women's World Cup team feeling the fever. Did you see the celebration?
I did not.
They lined up for a free throw.
Oh, nice.
That's right. She tossed a little free throw action. They all gave low hand high fives.
Nice.
It was real nice.
It's crazy how much like this is just sweeping the nation. Not to use a total cliche, but Raptors fever is absolutely sweeping the nation. You're seeing that with, like what you just said, a celebration in a soccer game that has nothing to do with the NBA Finals.
And I when you said they were ranked 5th, I was like, I said Cameroon surprisingly because I was like, that doesn't sound right. Yeah. Because I knew Canada was very high ranked because the women's soccer team has been kicking ass for a lot of years. Like they should have won gold in 2016 in Rio?
That's right.
Or was it 2012 in London? 2016 in Rio, I believe.
I
where
think
Sinclair got a bad call.
Yeah.
And Sinclair,
I feel like that was 2012.
Was it 2012? Sinclair beamed the pole.
Yeah.
I think it might have been 2012.
Yeah. We didn't brush up on our
but I think
soccer.
That was probably the biggest shocker of today's game, that Christine Sinclair was not the one who found the back of the net.
Yeah.
And that was a sweet goal. Like, what a great header from the corner. She came in out of nowhere. She came in out from outside the box.
Yeah.
And jumped 8 feet in the air and just pounded one in with her face. If you see the replay, it's not a head ball. It is a face ball.
They're going to have to get a new graphic at the bottom of the screen. FB.
Yeah.
Baseball. Goal by baseball.
Well, the sacrifices begin early. But yeah, I was reading a recap of the game, and it kind of sounded like Canada was basically trying to be too pretty. Like they were trying to set up like perfect goals instead of just taking shots on net when they had opportunities. They were looking for a better opportunity rather than taking them when they presented themselves. Wixie was a little concerned that they only beat Cameroon 1-0. That's maybe not actually a great sign for them as they move forward. But it could be more
first game of the tournament.
Well, and that's the thing. It could be more of a case of you're almost playing conservative in the first game against a lower seeded team, right? Because you're obviously trying to find your game as well. You're trying to feel out your opponent, and Cameroon obviously came in with a very defensive mindset because they know that Canada has some pretty good firepower. So I think they were trying to just kind of suffocate them for the first half and then see kind of what happened from there.
Absolutely. Is Pascal Siakam, is he not from Cameroon?
He is. Yeah.
He's from Cameroon.
So is Joel Embiid.
Yeah. Well, I knew about Joel Embiid, but he's not playing in the finals.
I think that's right.
I think that change the Raptors' odds tonight?
Probably not.
Pascal Siakam a little rattled.
Yeah, he's choked.
Yeah, a little rattled. Yeah, that's right. That's right. How dare you, Canada?
But his second home got the victory. To Wix's point though, I think maybe you're not totally thrilled that they walked away with a 1-0 win because the competition is going to get stiffer from here on out. They share a pool with, I believe, the Netherlands and New Zealand, both in the top 20. I think the Netherlands are number 8 in the world.
Right.
New Zealand number 19. So it is going to get stiffer. I think another factor at play here is you don't see a team like Cameroon on the international stage quite as much. So maybe there's more of like a feeling out sort of process. You're not used to seeing their game. It's not as showcased as much.
Yeah, for sure.
They did compete in the 2012 Olympics, but otherwise, and have had some strong showings, but mostly at the Africa Women Cup of Nations. So not per se the international stage. So maybe there was more of just getting used to how they played before they got into their own game.
What was that tournament called? The Africa Women Cup of Nations?
That's it.
That's an awkward mouthful.
It is a little bit.
Acronym as well.
The Cabin Sports Radio Podcast, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward.
Cabin Sports Radio, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. Once again, with apologies to my father, Gary Letkeman, we do not have time for a CFL season preview on tonight's show.
Oh, that's fine. This is how it's going to go. There are 8 teams. The winner of the Grey Cup will probably have a losing record. So, yay.
That hasn't happened since my Bombers lost to the Calgary Stampeders in 2001. I'll have you know.
When they went 8, what were they, 6
I
and
think they were
10?
8 and 10.
8 and 10.
Wow. And the Bombers were 14-4 that year.
Wow, that is an upset.
I just don't remind me, Mike.
Damn, sorry.
I just became friends with Kahari Jones on Facebook again.
What?
We did a show together like 13 years ago.
You and Safari Kahari?
Safari Kahari just became head coach of the Alouettes.
Wow.
So I saw that and I was like, I haven't talked to him in a while.
Yeah, he's cool enough to be my friend again.
That's right. That's right.
Well, what show did you do?
I
need to know more.
We did a show called Jesus Hop the A Train. In 2000,
need to know a lot more about it.
2007, spring of 2007.
Wow.
With an acting school that I was working with in Calgary.
Okay.
And so, like, he was friends with my teacher, and he was like, "Yeah, I've been talking to Kahari. He wants to do this show, and do you want to do this show?" And I was like, "Yep, I do." And so we played 2 guys on death row.
Okay.
He was on death row, and I was up for death row. Because I had killed a priest who sexually assaulted my brother.
Wow. Whoa.
It was a family show. And Kahari played like a multiple murderer who was like giving me like advice about like finding God and stuff like that.
Wow.
It was intense because it was like an 85-page play.
Okay.
And like 3/4 of it was just us talking.
Is that
like, just
long
the 2 of us.
for a play? 85 pages?
That's a fair number of pages.
Okay.
That was about a 2-hour show. And we were talking to each other in scenes for about an hour and a half.
Wow, that's just like arguably the nicest, most classy guy in CFL history, and
Super
he's
nice.
Playing a murderer on death row.
That's right. Against type, we call it in the industry. But we would pound back a little bit of Redbreast Irish whiskey before every show. And then he would run little patterns for his warm up because you'd have to do warm up, right? And he'd get it, and that's how he got into his frame of mind.
Take snaps, drop back.
He would take snaps, drop back, and it was like, oh my god, this is super impressive. And here I am in the corner, like trying to make myself cry. That's how I psych myself up and just screaming at the wall. But he's like running, like taking snaps and like fading back, and it was pretty cool.
Okay, well there you go, Gary. That's,
Gary.
That's as close as you'll get to a CFL season preview.
Season preview, Kahari Jones.
But of course, we're going to talk a little bit more Raptors before the end of the show. We only got a little bit more time.
They're going to lose tonight.
Is that your prediction?
Yeah,
You think they're going to lose tonight?
I think so.
Yeah.
We were saying that the longer this series goes, the more it favors Golden State.
Of course,
without question.
And you don't obviously you don't want to lose any time, but you don't want to lose this game tonight.
No.
You don't want to pull what St. Louis did last night. That was their shot, and I don't think St. Louis is going to win the cup.
What are you talking about?
But I don't know. I mean, but this is like the Canadian fan in me going like, I don't know about their chances. Yet every game they've had in hand. Even the game they lost totally in game 2, they had that game. They just didn't execute. But like even when we were watching on Friday, like even the longtime Raptors fans I was watching with are like, is this even real? Like it doesn't seem real because you're like, they're gonna blow it or like something bad's gonna happen, and it just doesn't seem to be happening. They just seem to be like they're in cruise control right now. They won the last game 105-92.
Yeah.
We are somewhat accustomed to tragic results here in
especially for Toronto.
Canadian pro sports, aren't we?
I've had my heart broken so many times.
So many times.
I'm just
this
numb.
is the first. I was talking about this the other day. This is the first time since '93.
Yeah.
Since there's like since a team in a major league is has the possibility of winning the championship.
Yeah.
This is the first time since '93 since the Blue Jays won the World Series. You can't really count like the Olympics or like the World Cup because like that's a major sport, but not the major league.
I mean, I guess arguably the only comparable would have been 2010 Canada Olympic hockey.
That is comparable based on like
just
how
because
many
of proximity
viewers?
of where it was.
Yeah, proximity and how many viewers.
Yeah.
We're expected to win that tournament.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like when they won, and even if it was in overtime, you're still expected to win that tournament.
So that's still not even really a close comparable.
It really isn't.
It's only close in the sense of like unity of the country.
Yeah.
But as far as
But that's the Olympics. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
The Olympics is all about pushing your country. Like this is something that's completely different. This is getting people who do not give a lick about basketball. Like, let's go watch the game.
Yeah.
Let's go see what happens.
Yeah,
Let's go
exactly.
see this. Let's go see Kawhi. Or they'd probably mispronounce his name if they didn't know that. Let's go see Kenny Leonard. This kid Kenny.
I heard someone pronounce it Cowie.
Cowie.
Yeah,
Wow,
Cowie
that's
Leonard.
new.
I was like,
I think the weirdest thing for me, from someone who's just had my heart broken so many times, is the collective calmness that every single one of them is playing. And there are the reports coming on the other end of the confusion, the angst, the anxiety out of the Warriors locker room. There was not a single smile cracked after the Raptors won Game 2 and Game 3. Not a single. It's clinical
Game 3
almost.
and 4.
Like, sorry, 3 and 4. Like surgical. Like they went there on a business trip to San Francisco. They won 2 games, and they're coming home with a chance to win now. So the collective calmness.
Yeah.
And the implications here are absolutely massive. This
Huge.
If they win, the Golden State Warriors dynasty is probably over. Because
It might be, 'cause
Kevin Durant is going to go.
Yeah, Clay's going to go,
In
possibly.
free agency.
Because Clay could get a super max somewhere else.
I think if Durant goes, Thompson probably stays because they can't offer him the super max. To me, and one thing that this series has also made kind of clear to me, I don't think Draymond Green is a max player.
And I don't think he has a place there anymore. They're calling him articles call him a leader, and it's like he's the guy that gets teed up because he screams at the ref over an obvious
Quite
foul.
frankly, he should get way more technicals than he actually does.
Absolutely.
But those are kind of the implications here. If they pull this one out, and Golden State's going to try and flip the script and say that all the pressure is on Toronto, and there is a lot of pressure to win their first ever title ever.
Doesn't seem to be affecting them at all.
Not in the slightest. And everyone is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing on the court and off it.
Yeah.
This just collective calmness. Like
The
walking
composure
off the
is-
court,
yeah,
not
it's
a
remarkable.
single
This
smile
is-
cracked.
This is very comparable to like the Bulls in the 90s. Phil Jackson had them like to borrow a phrase, had them kind of zen. To misuse a phrase completely. But he was a Buddhist, and he tried to push that in the locker room, and they were business-like, just mowing down teams until the very end, and they could let it all go.
It's kind of Kawhi Leonard's general demeanor. He's very, very, like, he doesn't get too emotionally invested. He's very composed, but you saw that. I felt I saw that especially immediately post game, on court interview with Kyle Lowry after game 4. He was just, there was no emotion or reaction on his face. And you would think, you just went up 3-1 in the NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors.
Doesn't mean anything.
You would have you wouldn't fault the guy for being like giddy almost, and he was just like, nope. We got business to do.
Especially coming back home.
With
a chance to clinch on home court, where they've been the best road team in these playoffs.
And everybody's bought in. Everybody's hopped on Kawhi Leonard's train. As like, this is the guy to follow, and we're going to follow him in every regard. Not just in like how much hard work he put into it, but in the attitude that you're showing on the court and off. And it's like, what did Kendrick Perkins say? Kendrick Perkins saw them walking into the locker room in Golden State and was just like, these guys are scary.
Like, these are they're killers.
These are the killers. This is what they're here to do. Did you see Nick Nurse's quote from today on the media day?
No.
So basically what he said after game 2 when they lost, and they lost that game.
Right.
They didn't. Golden State didn't win that game. The Raptors gave it away. They let it slip away. And Nick Nurse went in there and like trying to make everybody feel better. Hey, listen, like, this is what happens. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but like said that like, we'll go to Golden State. You know what? And we'll get at least one. And Kawhi Leonard, who we've never heard swear before, Nick Nurse said, expletive deleted. That. F that. Let's go take both. Like, that's what they're here to do.
Final prediction. Game 5. Jesse Wheeler.
Oy, I hate making predictions. I really do.
Let me can I throw something at you before you make it? So we all remember the 81-point game that Kobe registered against the Raptors. The most that anyone has ever scored against them since happened on 2 occasions, 51 points
and 47
in Toronto. Kevin Durant, both times, 51 points.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You can't, like, if
he won't be healthy. He won't even be close to
he's not
healthy.
100%.
And neither is
he's
Clay.
not 100%.
And neither is
Clay. So, but I mean, like, if he was 100%, or if whatever, like, if he ignores that all night or it doesn't affect him, if you let him shake loose, he will dominate. He will. He's a guy that can change the game. Predictions.
There was some good delay tactics, but it's time.
Raptors by
a hair.
By 1.
Yeah.
All right.
By 1.
Yeah.
Last second shot.
I will also say Raptors. If they don't win tonight, I don't like it for them.
I don't like it at all.
At all.
I'll say Raptors by 15.
Wow. Okay.
Demolishing.
But I'm totally prepared for that too.
That
I'm
could
totally
happen.
prepared to be like on the edge of my seat, and then the fourth quarter just being like, this is crazy.
This is not
like,
real.
Golden State keeps going down the floor. They're not scoring. Every time they go back down, they're just popping 2s and 3s. And Danny Green has the best 3-point percentage in finals history.
Doesn't matter. Jurassic
that is
Park.
Insane.
Jurassic Park's going to run wild. The electric fences are down.
Steph Curry is the greatest 3-point shooter of all time. In 5 straight finals, Danny Green's got the best 3-point shooting percentage of all time.
They've also never played a defense as good as the Raptors.
That's right.
Ever.
All right.
In the finals.
Wrap it up.
We're going to wrap this up. We're going to come back with one more. India Edwards, Spider Jones, and Jeff Hipfner are in the house. That is next on Cabin Sports Radio.
The CSR Podcast.
Welcome back to Cabin Sports Radio for one last segment. I am joined in studio by the president of Squash NT, Spider Jones, India Edwards, and her coach, Jeff Hipfner. Welcome to Cabin Sports Radio, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Now, this is, at least for Spider and India, this is, I think, your second time on the show. Jeff, I think you're making your Cabin Sports Radio debut.
This is my very first ever.
Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Very exciting week / weekend next week coming up for India. You are headed to Toronto, correct?
Yep.
Okay, I just kind of took a shot in the dark because I realized as we were going into this, I didn't actually know where it was happening, but you are headed to the Slate Music International Junior Squash Showcase. That kicking off next Monday, June 17th. How excited are you for that?
I am beyond excited. It's finally starting to click in that I'm going to this. And, I'm so excited, but with excitement comes nerves.
Yes, absolutely.
But this is an amazing opportunity, so I am so pumped and ready for it.
So for those who don't know, myself included, we were trying to get the name of this tournament. It is fairly prestigious, but give us a little insight. What exactly is this tournament about?
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll go.
You can take this one, Jeff. Sure.
How about I take it? Yeah. Yeah. So this is actually a companion tournament for the Pan Am Squash Championship that's coming up. That's starting actually this coming Sunday. And so what Squash Canada is doing is they're basically from the first round matches. The international players that are actually participating in the Pan Ams, if they lose their first matches, then they'll be moving down, being fed into this companion tournament, the Slate Music Festival.
Okay.
Not Music Festival, the music showcase. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a doubles tournament.
No, it's not a doubles.
Oh, it's not a
It's
doubles.
a singles. It's a singles.
Okay.
But if they lose their first match, then they're going to go down and play athletes from, I guess it's just from Canada, but it's around athletes that have been actually invited to come and play in the Slate companion tournament.
How much of an honor is it to be invited for something like this?
Well, when I first got the email, I was kind of like, what is this? Is this, is this real? But once I kind of figured out what it was, I was like, wow, I guess I'm kind of good.
It's a nice realization to have. Yeah. Spider, you obviously are very involved with India and her career in squash. How excited are you for her?
Well, I think it's a fabulous opportunity. India was most recently playing number 1 for the Canada Winter Games female team. She played very hard, played extremely well, had some strong results, had some near exceptionally strong results. And we're very fortunate this opportunity's come up. And with Jeff at her side, I'm confident that we'll see what happens on the day.
Have you had too many squash players from the Northwest Territories go to this tournament before, or will India be the first?
This is the first time it's been held in Canada. Devin Hinchy went when it was played in Brazil, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And Dev, at the top of his game, fared quite well for Canada.
Okay, so give us an idea of just like in the squash world, how prestigious is this tournament?
Well, on the North American continent, it's the equivalent of a British Junior Open.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so like a pretty big deal for...
Big deal.
Yeah. Okay, and there are the different levels, like a junior level, a senior level?
No, it's just a junior tournament.
Okay.
Our top 2 males and top 2 females made the team, though this opportunity for India to play in the companion event, given she's dropped down a tier or 2 from those top levels, is a great opportunity for her to to test herself against the top players who just happened to weren't successful the first round, as Jeff described.
Okay, so you're obviously going to be training India leading through this week. You leave for Toronto on Saturday?
Yep.
Okay, and then the tournament kicks off Monday. What does your schedule look like from there? Is this a week-long tournament?
So I'll be playing from Monday to Wednesday.
Okay.
I think.
That's correct.
And I don't have a ton of details on the whole thing, but I'm pretty sure I'm just going to be hanging around the squash courts, either playing or watching.
Okay. Now, Toronto's a nice city to have downtime, though, so you'll have lots of fun. And then after that, you come back to Yellowknife. We were talking about a bit off air before the show. You come back to Yellowknife, you write your exams, and then you're back out to Toronto again.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
So I'll be visiting my mom in Toronto, and I'll be there for about a month. And while I'm there, I'm doing a 4-day or a week-long squash camp.
Okay.
At the same club that the companion tournament is held.
Okay, awesome. So that's got to be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get into a squash camp like this for a while, so it's exciting.
Is it hard to get into to squash camps? Or is it kind of like exclusive a little bit?
I'm not too sure about this one, but
this one's run by a gentleman by the name of Greg Hutner, who's one of Canada's top junior coaches. Know him a little bit from when he was coaching at the Battle of the Border, where the top Canadians play the top U.S. juniors annually, and runs some high-performance camps And we're fortunate that we were able to parlay an invitation for India to apply and to be accepted to one of these top junior events.
Awesome.
Camps.
So a really good opportunity then, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So finally, before we end this segment, Jeff, we were talking also before the show, and AJ, who is our GM here at Cabin Radio, and also an avid squash player down at the Yellowknife Racket Club. He mentioned something about a legendary D division final. What exactly was he talking about?
Well, this was actually it was a pretty fantastic match to watch. It was a number of years back now that it was between India's father, Chris.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm sorry, I forget his name now. He only was here for a summer, but fairly athletic young gentleman. And it was an epic battle. I mean, this guy who had come up here, had never really played squash, quite novice, was running around the court, practically flying around. And there was Chris, India's dad, with some beautiful hands, great finesse shots. But he was suffering a little bit himself, like at the time. But it was a great match that went 5. I think it was probably one of the best matches we've actually seen in the Racket Club for quite a long time.
Oh my goodness.
But it was a great event to watch.
Amazing. Well, we might have to do some investigative journalism here and find out who that gentleman was, because I feel like he needs to have his name on a plaque or something.
I think so. That would be a great idea.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for coming in. India, best of luck at the tournament. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
And looking forward to obviously a big summer of training and another great squash season after that.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you all for coming on Cabin Sports Radio, and we'll see you again for sure. I have no doubt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you on court.
That's India Edwards, Jeff Hipfner, her coach, and Spider Jones, president of Squash NT, in talking a little squash, as India, very exciting, is headed to Toronto next week for the Slate Music International Junior Squash Showcase. Best of luck to her. And that will do it for another episode of Cabin Sports Radio. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. The Raptors game tip-off happening almost as we speak. So, go, Raps, go. Oh, this is exciting. See what happens, and we will talk to you next week once again, right here, same time, on Cabin Sports Radio.